I'm Mary, 42 years old. 10 years ago, I married a man I met at work. He was divorced with a child, whom I've raised as my own while working. During this time, my husband started his own business and, despite many ups and downs, persevered as the president until the end. My stepson turned 20 this year. He left home 2 years ago to attend a university in a neighboring state and seems to be managing well living alone. But our ordinary life changed abruptly. My husband passed away. He died of a heart attack, and there was nothing that could be done. While I was overwhelmed with grief, there were countless things to take care of, including the funeral and various arrangements, and before I knew it, the day of the funeral arrived. The funeral was a small, family-only affair, as my husband wished. His parents had already passed away, and being an only child, the only family he had by blood was our son. My parents and siblings didn't get along with my husband, so we didn't invite them. It was just me and our son at the very small funeral. Before the coffin was taken away, my son came to me in the waiting room. "What's wrong?" I asked him as usual, but he didn't respond. His expression was almost blank. When I asked again, he suddenly started saying incomprehensible things. "That's enough, you parasite." "What?" "Stop clinging to Dad. You just came in later and started sucking up all his money. You fake mother parasite, just renounce your inheritance and disappear. The real family is just me." After saying that, he left the room, slamming the door behind him. The sound echoed painfully in my heart. After that, we didn't talk, and as soon as the funeral was over, he went back to his dorm. I couldn't ask him what he meant by his words. I tried to contact him, but my messages were left unread, and he ignored my calls. I couldn't confirm anything, and it was already the next day. Today, I tried contacting him several times, but still no response. And with work tomorrow, it's difficult to just leave for his dorm in the neighboring state. So, I stopped by a convenience store to pick up some light food and drinks, then headed home. When I entered my apartment, I noticed a sliver of light under the door to the living room. Hesitantly, I approached and opened the door quietly. To my surprise, there was my son, sitting on the living room sofa, seemingly waiting for me. "What are you doing here?" After moving out for his dorm, my son only came home for the holidays, like Christmas and New Year's. Even during the recent wake and funeral, he didn't stop by here, he just went straight from his dorm and back. Ignoring my obvious confusion, my son confronted me in a calm voice, or rather, a slightly mocking tone. "Was something inconvenient for you? Didn't want to be seen doing whatever you please now that Dad's gone?" "What do you mean?" "Just figured you'd be living it up in your own way now that Dad's not around." "In many ways." "That's not true at all." "Yeah, whatever. Anyway, that's not important. Did you eat?" "Huh? Are you hungry?" "If you haven't eaten, I can make something simple." It was getting late. If he had been waiting in the room alone, he might be hungry. As a mother, it was natural for me to offer, but it seemed to irritate him. Suddenly, he slammed his hand on the table in front of him and glared at me with hostility. "You! Didn't I just say it?" "What?" "How long are you gonna keep shamelessly squatting in this house? You fake mother parasite, just renounce your inheritance and disappear. The real family is just me." The same lines, the same insults as before, came flying out from my son. What's really going on? Did something happen? "What? I only put up with you because Dad was around. Who would think of someone like you as my mother? You just leeched off Dad while he was the CEO, sucking up the sweet life. Just get lost now." I was at a loss for words. Indeed, since remarrying 10 years ago, my son hardly ever turned to me for affection. He grew up protected by his kind father, having experienced his parents' divorce at a young age. I felt that my presence had robbed him of his gentle father. So, for the past 10 years, I tried my best to raise him. I made daily lunches, took him to and from extracurricular activities, and created many family-like moments. Even during his rebellious phase, my husband struggled with all sorts of things, but we faced it together, believing it was a phase every child goes through. But it seems my efforts never reached him. My son's painful words inflicted deep damage on my heart. I painfully realized that our relationship was only possible because of the presence of my husband, his blood father, and my husband. My son, openly hostile towards me. This is probably the real face of my son. Perhaps, no matter what I say as his stepmother, it won't reach him anymore. So, I decided to at least listen to his last wish.
Yes. No matter what happens, you gotta keep living. Absolutely. Huh? Don't you act all high and mighty, you fake.
The words from my son, filled with such intensity, felt like they were piercing through me. What do you want? Get out of here. What?
This house belonged to Dad, which means it's now mine. No place for a fake family like you.
Kevin.
Shut up. Don't talk to me. Don't even say my name. I really want to tell you to get out right now. But I'm kind because you did take care of me when I was a kid. I'll give you a week's notice. This is my house. I can't live in that tiny apartment forever. Just hand over the place and get lost.
The last look my son gave me left deep wounds in my heart. With that, he left for his dorm. A week later. After work, I checked my personal phone and saw an unbelievable number of missed calls and messages. Most of them were from Kevin, just as I expected. I turned off my phone for a while and headed home. After a quick dinner and a bath, I turned my phone back on after a few hours. As soon as I did, the sound of countless messages and missed call notifications wouldn't stop. I tried to go through them, and the moment I marked the messages as read, Kevin called, as if he had been waiting. Hello?
Hey! What the hell do you think you're doing? Don't mess with me.
I could hear my son's anger through the phone. It wasn't surprising. The first message had come in the morning.
Calm down first. I can't talk to you if you don't speak properly. What? You're the one making it impossible to talk properly. What's this about the house being up for sale?
So, it was about that. Not really surprising.
How about we meet and talk? Where are you?
Outside the house. I see. So, you saw the for sale sign and started bombarding me with calls. Makes sense.
Of course.
He must have been there since the morning. Well, there's nowhere else for him to be, I guess. For now, you can still get into the house. If you have the key, go in and wait. It's completely empty, though.
What? The key still works?
He hadn't even tried it. I suddenly remembered my husband, who had a simple and slow-witted side, just like my son Kevin. He must have tried the key after I suggested it. I could hear the sound of the door opening through the phone. He probably stepped into the entrance, relieved and slightly relaxed, judging by the deep breath I heard. Yet, he couldn't hide his emotions or embarrassment, and his voice came out harshly.
Just hurry up and get here.
The call abruptly ended, and I let out a heavy sigh. In the midst of my hectic daily life, having just relaxed at home, honestly, going out was a hassle. There were still a mountain of things to do. But I knew I had to have a proper conversation with my son, for various reasons. Resigned to this, I put my coat back on and headed to my former home. As I opened the unlocked door, I saw the cold hallway leading to the lit living room. Walking quietly over the chilly floor, I found Kevin sitting cross-legged in the middle of the empty living room.
You're late. How long do you expect people to wait?
What? I came right after the phone call ended. My stronger tone surprised Kevin a bit. But ever since we met, he was always biting back, not just at me, but also at his biological father, my husband. He wasn't going to back down now and lashed out even more.
Are you kidding me? What's with the for sale sign?
The house is too big for one person, so I thought about selling it. Your words helped me make up my mind. Thanks for that. The cold floor of winter was draining the warmth from my body. I turned on the air conditioner as I always did.
What? You can't just sell Dad's house.
Oh. But this is my house. What? This house is mine, legally in my name. What? You didn't know?
Don't lie to me. How could you afford a place like this? You think I'm stupid just because I'm young?
No, wasn't it you who treated me with a condescending attitude? Of course, I wouldn't say that out loud. No, it's legally in my name. I can show you the registration if you want. His real thoughts spilled out as I spoke with deliberate firmness. How can someone with no money like you afford it? You must have tricked Dad into giving you the money. Just like you wormed your way into his life for his money when he was a CEO. I knew it. Even though my husband and I tried desperately to connect, Kevin never opened up his heart. Correctly speaking, my husband became a president after we got married. But it's true Kevin probably thought some random woman was approaching his father, who could earn enough to start a company. But that doesn't change the fact that you, his son, were freely spending his money, right? What? You thought I didn't know? You sneaked into Dad's company and stole money during your middle and high school years, didn't you? Kevin's face stiffened, not expecting me to know. In reality, it was Kevin, not me, who was siphoning off his father's money. How do you know that? I didn't at first. Your father was desperately hiding it to protect you. But eventually, there were accounting issues, and when pressed, your father admitted, Kevin has been coming to the company and taking money. Dad knew? Of course he knew. How much do you think you took from Dad's company? How would I know? $400,000.
What?
And I think you probably took a few thousand more. Kevin probably didn't even realize he had stolen that much. Seriously? He muttered, shaking his foot slightly. No point asking what he spent it on now. By the way, aren't you wondering how I know all this? Yeah. How do you know so much about Dad's company? You must have been up to no good. The nerve of this kid, accusing me of wrongdoing. It's only natural I know. It's my company. What? That company is mine, so of course I know about it.
No way. That was Dad's company. Don't tell me you took over it.
I wouldn't take over such a small company that was in huge debt. Debt? Yes. Dad's company was on the brink of collapse, so we included it under our group to turn it around. That's why you could go to college and still ask Dad for money. You should be thanking me. What? Dad was indeed the president since he went independent 8 years ago. But eventually, he became an employed president under our group. Like a salaried president. Why? Like I said, the company was in huge debt and had no way out, so we took it under our wing. But why? Your father had no business acumen. He thought he could handle it even after you stole $400,000 from him. That's impossible for that company. It couldn't make up for a $400,000 loss. So, we took it under our group. Dad cut his salary to pay employees, and I paid for all our living expenses and this apartment, which I owned, to reduce the burden. As I spoke calmly, Kevin's reaction was surprisingly mild, beyond his stiffened expression. He seemed unable to keep up with the facts spilling from my mouth. What do you mean, you already owned it? Oh, I've been investing in various things since I was young. I owned several apartments, including this one, which I bought to rent out. When we were looking for a new place to live, I thought it would be suitable for our family. You own several apartments? Yes, real estate income. How did you have money to invest when you were young? Well, who are you, anyway? After living together for 10 years, he's finally asking. He always thought of me as just an ordinary office worker. Lack of interest is a scary thing. Living life ignoring what should be seen and known. Even the most important things, like your own family. My efforts at parenting were one-sided after all. It wasn't just Kevin's fault. The trauma of divorce in his early years, the appearance of a stepmother he couldn't accept, being tossed around by the whims of adults, these are undeniable facts. But neither my husband nor I could find the answer to what to do. We were either not allowed to find it, or we were not allowed to find it. Now, it's just a result. I need to explain this to Kevin too. I calmly laid out the facts to the suspicious Kevin. Do you know Turner Group? I'm the COO there. What? The Turner Group? Remember my maiden name? Ah. Right, Mary Turner. Daughter of the CEO of Turner Group, the heir to the Turner family.
No way. I've never met your family.
That's because your father avoided them. He didn't want to face them after running off with the heir to the Turner family, a divorced man. So, he avoided any meetings.
What?
And then, we had to include his failing company under our group's umbrella. Without even apologizing. That's probably why he lacked business skills. My husband indeed spent his last days running from the Turner family. My family wanted to meet him, but he never did until the end. That's why they weren't invited to the funeral. He was a kind man. Truly kind man. But that kindness also became a source of indulgence and escape. Then that means I'm the grandson of the Turner Group, right? That's true, isn't it? I expected you'd say that. That's why I never told Kevin this truth until now. I thought about telling him when he was in high school, but at that time, it wasn't something he could handle. He would definitely take advantage of the Turner name. In that sense, my husband keeping us distant from my family was a blessing in disguise. Kevin's recent words just confirmed it all. But sadly, you're not the grandson of the Turner Group.
What? If you're my mother, then I'm the grandson. Even if you're a fake mother, that's what the family register says. Don't try to deceive me.
Did you listen to what I said before? What? What did I say? I wonder if the son in front of me remembers. He looks confused, trying to recall, but it seems nothing came to mind. After you said, the only real family is me, I said, no matter what, you have to keep living. Absolutely. Kevin seemed to remember that, but still had a face that said, so what? Clearly, my words and intentions hadn't reached him. His expression confirmed it. You're 20 years old, you should understand the meaning, right? What? You're an adult and a college student, living a life beyond most adults, without thinking about anything?
What? It's normal for parents to support while kids are students.
There's no obligation to support beyond tuition and basic living expenses. What? Parents don't have to pay for your leisure and luxury. At my words, Kevin quickly hid his expensive-looking watch. Surely, there are many other things he obtained with the over $400,000 he used. For a student who doesn't work, they're all disproportionate. Such disproportionate armor is fragile and protects nothing. You're okay with your child being homeless? I don't mind. It's none of my concern anymore. What? You're no longer my concern. Kevin looked at me, his face saying he didn't understand. I've never really understood you, Kevin. From the day your father brought you until today, I couldn't strip away that inappropriate, fragile armor with a direct approach. Your father has passed away. So, we're no longer parent and child. What? I divorced your father after his death, and my last name is back to Turner. You and I are now complete strangers. Well, we've always been strangers, actually.
Why would you do something like that?
Why? You said it yourself. The only real family is you. You never thought of me as family from the start. It worked out perfectly.
That's not true. What am I supposed to do without parent?
I wasn't your family, remember? You said it yourself.
But you should have consulted me.
Consult? To someone who never listened even when I tried to connect? To someone who left and never came back, doing whatever he pleased? Besides, we're not family, so why should I consult you? I smiled sweetly at Kevin, his face turning red and his body trembling. It might be immature. But after these 10 years of looking at him as family, maintaining this relationship of stepmother and child seemed too hard. Suffering under a kind yet indulgent husband and a son who wouldn't accept me as family. I've grown tired over these 10 years. What about college and a place to live? Didn't I already point that out? What? No matter what happens, carry on. Absolutely. You demanded that I renounce my inheritance, so you must have thought about it, right? What? The inheritance. What happened to it? Sadly, your father left debts. Consumer loans, credit card loans, about $600,000. And no savings. What? Debts and no savings? Of course, as you demanded, I renounced the inheritance, so all the dead inheritance goes to you. Good luck.
What? I'm not inheriting any debts. Why are there debts and no savings?
Because you stole from his company, remember? What? I said earlier, besides that $400,000, and there were probably more. Kevin nodded slightly. That was probably used to cover the hole in your father's savings and debts. What? Probably at first, he was trying to cover it up without creating a hole in the company's funds. The company had just started, and there wasn't much savings. Once that ran out, and he couldn't borrow anymore, he struggled for years, trying to deceive, and eventually came crying to me. You had already consumed what should have been your father's inheritance. It's your own doing, isn't it? I wonder if my words reached him. His eyes bloodshot and round, Kevin mutters to himself, exuding an aura of despair. How much is the debt? It was less than $100,000, I think. $100,000? Kevin sat down, holding his head. I'll give you a hint, though. A hint? A hint that might help you survive. What is it? Tell me, quickly. You know, you're asking for a favor. Maybe think about how you ask? Sorry, please tell me. Like I did, you can renounce the inheritance too. Really? His face brightened up, persistently asking how to do it. You can do the procedure yourself if you look it up. Besides, you're a law student, right? Oh wait, you barely got into a decent private university with a recommendation from a low-ranking high school and you're struggling to pass, right? You're technically a junior but haven't even earned 40 credits yet? It makes sense you don't know. I hit a sore spot and he looked down, biting his lip. He might think of me as a mean adult, but it's intentional. He probably hasn't been attending school properly. Less than 40 credits in 3 years. It'll take at least 3 more years to graduate, right? That means 2 more years of tuition. It's far beyond what he could possibly afford to pay. There's some life insurance in your name from your father.
Really?
It's only $60,000. Seeing Kevin's reaction, as if he wanted to exclaim, "Is that all?" I mentioned that it's also due to his actions that there wasn't more money for insurance, causing him to make an uncomfortable face. And you know, there might be taxes on the insurance money, so look into that.
What? Taxes on insurance money?
You're an adult, so maybe look it up? Even after taxes, it should be enough to set up a room and live for a while. If you want to continue college, apply for scholarships. Wait, set up a room? What do you mean? The apartment you're living in now. I'm canceling it at the end of this month. What? Why? It's rented under my name. I have no obligation to keep renting and paying for someone who's not my child. Can't you give me like a month's notice? What? You only gave me a week's notice. You have 3 more weeks. You're 20, an adult. You can rent a room and do anything. I'm just following through on your words. Take responsibility for what you said.
This can't be happening.
He looked to Pirate. But from my perspective, there's much more he could do. I wish he'd realized this. First off, why not sell those inappropriate branded items for cash? What? Like that watch you're wearing, and that bag. Do you really need them right now? I want him to think and struggle to find answers. Kevin, who has grown up indulged in his father's unconditional kindness since his mother wasn't around. He might have been awkwardly showing his neediness to me too. But there's a difference between acceptable neediness and harmful self-indulgence. Actions that hurt others and change lives are not neediness but mere selfishness. It's clear that a 20-year-old adult like him will struggle in life if this continues. I don't hate Kevin. In fact, I still think of him as my dear son. That's why I cut ties with him with the greatest love I could offer. He needs to strive on his own now. I left an envelope with necessary documents in front of the still stunned Kevin. I'm sure he will understand. With that hope, I softly stroked his hair for the first time in years and quietly left the former home. 3 years have passed since my husband's death. Every year on his anniversary, I visit his grave and update him. There, I always find beautiful blue gentians laid out. The person who offers flowers to my husband, who had no siblings or parents. I'm sure it must be the person I have in mind. The meaning of the gentian flower is consoling sorrow. Blue gentians symbolize sincerity. The same color as my husband's favorite tie. It's out of season to get these flowers now. I wonder what he thinks and where he gets them. Every year, I lay white gentians next to the blue ones. Their meaning is sincere character. Like my straightforward, kind husband, watching over Kevin from afar. After finishing my visit, I return to the office. Even now, after 3 years, I continue my daily life as the COO of Turner Group. COO, please check this. What's this? It's the list of new employees joining our group companies next year. Oh, it's already that time of year, isn't it? Every year around this time, the list of new employees joining the group companies is brought to me. With so many companies, the list is quite long, but it's my personal wish to remember the faces and names of the young people who will be working with us. As I was flipping through the list handed over by my secretary, I came across the list from the company where my husband used to be the president. The current president of that company is really unique and capable, isn't he? You knew him from college, right? The secretary approached with a mug of coffee. Its gentle aroma tickled my nose. Yes, he's been a friend since college. He did great in another company, so I lured him over to lead. It was a great success. The company has shown significant growth since then. After my husband's sudden passing, I had to look for a new president. Given the tough business conditions, it was hard to find suitable staff. That meant there was no one suitable within the company either, leading to a tough situation. So I managed to persuade a friend of mine, who had joined a venture company with only a few employees, to join as the new president, and had grown the company to a scale of 100 employees. The existing employees were initially puzzled by the completely different approach of the new president. However, his personality and power led the team, and he continues to elevate the company. I was curious about the new employees he had chosen. As I flipped through the list, I saw a familiar face. It was Kevin. What's this about? I called my friend immediately. Hello. Hey, I didn't hear about this. About what? The new employees starting in April. Oh, were you surprised? He seemed to know what I was talking about. Surprised? Why is he there? Why? Because he's interesting. What? He is quite interesting. His life until 3 years ago was quite heavy, but these last 3 years have amplified his character. I have only high expectations. Listening to my friend, I stared at Kevin's photo on the list. His face had changed significantly, looking much more mature. The expression he had when I last stroked his hair was nowhere to be seen. Okay. Take care of him. Like you have to tell me. The call was abruptly ended. Even though he says that, I know he's watching over Kevin. That's good. I thought to myself, feeling relieved. I might never meet Kevin directly, but I'm sure I'll hear about him often.
I can't feel the softness of his hair, but I gently stroke his photo on the paper and smile softly.